Yeah, I appreciate that. I
So,
think a lot of people, I mean, to the contrary, they want to believe everything but what comes from you personally, but what comes from, your mouth. I mean, Joe Smo down the street could say something about you and they would take it for face value when they didn't get it from a direct source. So that's why I appreciate you coming to me and talking to me, understanding for yourself. Like that does mean a lot. I mean, and I think that's good journalism in itself, right? I mean, people go directly to the source and talk to that
yeah,
person getting information.
I would have everybody on the show. I mean, if there are other people out there who attended the January 6th event at the Capitol, my my Zoom is open. I would have everybody on if they'd like to talk about it and give their perspective and give their experience firsthand. Because yeah, I mean, we're reading the FBI reports and there's a lot more to the story and there's a lot more to people and their lived experience. I will say you make no secret of the fact that you are anti-government. So, I
Well,
mean,
anti-government in the way that is not upholding our unalienable rights, our freedoms as humans. So if a
mhm.
government is saying, hey, we're going to impose things that are unjust, am I anti-government in that sense? Sure. Are you anti-government? If somebody's being unjust to you, you're gonna say, "Hey, government, you're not doing, what you're supposed to be doing." I mean, yeah, that's where anti-government comes into play for me personally. If that sort of like gives you perspective on my mindset on it.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't disagree with you. I think we have a lot of views that parallel and overlap, and a lot of areas that we 100% see eye to eye on. Can people maybe make the case though that maybe he was there not as a Trump supporter, but as an anti-government type of person, more as along the lines of not necessarily being a person who's involved in Antifa, whatever that is. I mean, it's not an organization, but being anti-fascist, being anti-government I can see the government making that case that the things that you were saying that day come from that position, come from those beliefs and those feelings rather than trying to fit in. So that's, again, I don't know what's in your heart. I'm going to take it at face value. I'm going to believe what you're saying. But I can see that that's where they will probably take it. And that's the argument that they're going to make. Now, have they made you any offer? Have they offered you a plea deal at this point?
Uh, I don't know if I can talk about it, but yeah, you get
Okay.
what I'm saying. By
Yeah.
might as well. Here's the thing: they want people to plead, and that's how the government gets most of their cases done because everyone goes to trial. It's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So that
It's
being stated,
local government works that way too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
I mean,
does.
I can't tell you how many people I know, including myself, who've had issues with sexual assault and they just want to plead it out.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that it would be right to do so because sometimes people are pleading guilty to things that they're not guilty necessarily of,
Mm-hmm.
but that's their decision to make. Honestly, if they were asking me to plead guilty to any of the charges above, with there's discrepancy, and I'm not just going to throw myself under the bus on one charge. So let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say is that let's say obstruction of official proceeding. I cannot, in good honesty, go to a judge and say I'm guilty of that. I can never look at the judge in the face and say I ever had that thought in my mind. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like because a judge will, when you plead guilty to something, they will take you into court and besides the signature on the dotted line saying that you agreed to the plea deal, you got to go to the judge and you got to say, I'm guilty of this. Otherwise, if you
Mm-hmm.
say no, I'm not, then all of it's void and
Right.
you don't get that deal. So for me personally, I could just never do that. But other people make a decision to say, hey, I'd rather take this consequence, this charge, and be done with it. And be done with the case itself, so I don't have to go to trial. They just rather do it that route. But I mean, I don't think that's a good idea either way, because you're getting a charge that you're not guilty of. But I mean, everybody has their own reasons of doing so. Some people can't handle that pressure, but it's interesting to use that tactic. But that's what I think is unjust as well.
Yeah, I mean, most of these people are pleading guilty to parading or demonstrating in a Capitol, and then they're just getting, probation.
Yeah.
I would never say that someone like you was there to obstruct the certification of the vote. There's nothing that I've read or seen in any publication that makes me think that that was your intention, or that you would have any reason to try to obstruct the certification of the vote.
Yeah, I find that hilarious, in my opinion. I mean, people are like, why are you laughing at federal charges? I mean, I just find it just funny that they would think that. I find it very naive of them to think that, but hey, who am I to rationalize what the government thinks and the way they're doing things? A lot of it's blanket charges too, because they're like, anybody who's in this section of the building gets charged with all of these things. And I've seen it, like, everybody who's around me charged with pretty much the similar things. So, I mean, I could see that being as a reason why, but regardless of that fact, I mean, I believe everybody who's like in the Capitol, who's protesting, should get picketing and, in protesting within the Capitol. That's like a no-brainer charge for them to say, okay, I'm guilty of. But like, let's talk about outside the Capitol. Like, if anybody was like, I'm not talking about that day, but like people who are having to plead guilty to things that they're not guilty of, that's like where corruption in the government, I think, that's just unjust. Like, everybody should have that fair day in court, and nor should the government impose themselves so much on your life that, it's forcing you to plead guilty, nor should it be, a fact because I want to save money to not go the length of the trial. The government wants to save money, not to go the length of the trial. So let me force this defendant to plead guilty. That is not, how is that constitutional? How is that fair to anybody? Like, everybody should have their day in court, so allow them to have that. But it's
I don't think anybody should be forced to take a plea. But I think that if their advice from their attorney is, hey, you're more than likely going to get hit with a lot stiffer penalty and you're probably going to lose, it's better to just take the plea, or for financial reasons too. A lot of people, I think, just want it to be done and over with. They just, they don't want to have to keep paying attorney's fees. What cracks me up is these people who are like, oh, the communists, these progressives and these, I mean, they just throw out all these terms, but yet they're using public defenders. And it's like,
That's the hilarious part. I just,
these right. Socialists, we got to stop the socialism, but give me a public defender.
Holy crap.
Do you realize that's socialism? Like, that is a socialist program. We are all paying for that, for you to have an attorney.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That is funny. That's hilarious. And see, I knew, like, for some reason, like, I didn't know if you were on the right or the left, but when I heard that you say Antifa is not an organization, like, I knew you're on the left from that comment. Like, anybody on the right is like, Antifa is an organization. And I'm like, no, like, that's false.
Yeah, no, just a bunch of people, like, dressed in black who show up with, half of a trash can to use as a shield. I mean,
well, here's the thing. I know the organization specifically by name just because I've been around them. Like, it's like, I mean, like, to give an example, people who say in DC, Antifa, I mean, there's specific groups like Fighting Fascism DC is a group, They Them Collective, FAM, Anarcho-Abolitionist Network. I mean, like, if you're educated, you're going to say the names of the groups and who they are,
Yeah, so there's like little local collectives is what you're saying, but there's no nationwide or international organization where they're like paying dues and membership fees like the Proud Boys or Oath Keepers.
I wouldn't say never, ever, but as far, I think maybe one group that I might that might be possible, but I mean,
Mhm.
that's just speculation. I have no like evidence to justify
Okay.
that, but 99.9% are just like random groups. Antifa
Mhm.
is that autonomous, networks of groups that come together to complete a specific objective. So it's all
Mhm.
about autonomy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people who just show up
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
they just want to be a part of it. And so, yeah.
Especially Portland. Portland, they just
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
Let me show up. Let me protest, cause some disruption. That's what they do. I mean, I like Portland actually because of how I guess they're free to protest to an extent without prosecution, and they get let off a lot. But I
Hmm.
mean, the cops there, yes, they can be brutal, but they have laid off a lot, and so I think it's yeah, that community of protesting is just quite interesting. It's not like any other place, not like DC or Washington or Seattle, Washington, or even California.
Yeah.
Are you in California?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been to protests there or?
No, no. Yeah, like I said, I know people who have gone, but yeah, there was one not too far from me that I wish I had known about in advance because I would have gone. Um, but and it got ugly. But
Was it that one like a few weeks ago with the Proud Boys and like they were like stabbed somebody?
no, no, yeah, that's
Mm.
in LA. Yeah,
Oh,
it's not too far from me. Yeah, I'm out in the Orange County region, but yeah, it was the one where the BLM protester ran over a couple of Trump supporters.
I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she like gunned her car and ran over, didn't run them over, but hit them with her car and caused bodily harm. So she was arrested. Yeah, she's facing some pretty serious charges. I think they even hit her with attempted murder, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, I don't know what her motive was, but I mean, if she did try to do that, I think that's justified a little bit, but
Yeah, yeah. I don't know the exact circumstances. I watched the video several times because people were recording it and live streaming it. And they had her car surrounded. Like they literally, or on all sides, had her surrounded. And at one point, you heard somebody say, "You're not getting out of here." Now, I
mm,
don't know if they meant that as a threat or if they were just observing, like, "Oh, you're surrounded. There's no way you're going to, move. So you may as well
yeah,
just settle in." Some people said that they were trying to open her car doors. And so she felt threatened, but I don't know. And
yeah.
I reached out to people I know who were in contact with her and said, I'd like to have her on to talk to her about it and get her perspective, but I never heard back. So,
I'll let
yeah.
you know if I hear. I haven't heard of that situation, but it sounds like, I mean, if this is Proud Boys though, or not just Trump supporters,
Hmm.
but Proud Boys, like, I mean, I would consider running some of them over because they're going to break into my car. I mean, seeing all the videos, especially if they're saying
Yeah.
those things, but
Well,
you know,
yeah, and I know people who were there that day, and they said the Proud Boys crossed the street, like they were the aggressors for sure,
mm,
because all of the BLM protesters, I think it was primarily in support of Breonna Taylor's family,
oh,
and so they had a lot of signs saying "say her name" and of pictures of her. And Proud Boys and other Trump supporters showed up and they were yelling across the street and saying, like, "fuck that bitch," and hurling direct insults at a dead woman who was shot while sleeping in her home. I mean,
yeah,
just
that's
so
disgusting.
vile.
Yeah,
But yeah, they literally crossed the street to go approach the Breonna Taylor supporters and BLM supporters, and the police just stood there. So, it keeps escalating and escalating. But yeah, they were definitely the aggressors. And there were
yeah,
definitely Proud Boys there.
yeah. If that's the case, and I definitely would look differently at the situation of her driving over people, but
Yeah.
still would like to know all the facts either way. But that's
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it'll all, eventually come out. But Yeah, I kind of wish I was at that one just to, like you, to document it and see for myself exactly what took place and record it. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to find them or spot them. I mean, usually it's just like I don't know if you use Telegram too much or not really.
no, yeah, I'm not on it at all.
That's how I like knew about the Capitol stuff. So it's just like
Mhm.
I'm in like thousands of messaging groups, like because you
Oh,
can follow the trail and just join them. But I mean, there's some horrendous ones. Like there's like completely group chats geared towards like uh, George Floyd and being specifically racist to him. Like I'm telling you, like it's weird. But anyways, like there's BLM stuff and Antifa, whatever you want to say, if that's a
mhm.
group, and those chats. And so like they'll post protests and stuff, and
Mhm.
like they. So if you haven't been, I'll explain to you real quickly. Basically, a lot of the BLM groups have these networks, and they have channels for every single city in
Mhm.
America. One is called SOS Network, and then another one's called, yeah, I will just go with SOS Network because I can't remember the other one. But basically, every single city has
Mhm.
a chat, and there's always somebody who has like control over the chat, or like there's multiple people who do, and anybody can post in there obviously, but
Mhm.
usually they're posting protests for that area. So like LA, they'll post protests in there for like
Mhm.
whatever's going on. And so like it's a very good way to keep up on things. But yeah, I can send you a link to it and stuff. But it's yeah, that's where people are usually organizing or
Mhm.
relaying information besides like maybe Parlor, but it's
Mhm.
more of a anonymous platform where Parlor, yeah, you can be anonymous, but Telegram, you can hide your phone number, you can make a fake profile. So it's really
Mhm.
meant for people putting information out there that's obviously not always legal.
Yeah. Yeah. This stuff is just out of control. I mean,
Social media, it's technology, new day
yeah.
and age.
Yeah. But, and if we end up with a Republican governor here in California, it's just going to get way worse.
You think so? Damn.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Hmm.
especially, what is his name? Is it Evers, Tony Evers, or whatever the guy's name who's running, or maybe, no, it's not Tony Evers. I can't remember his name, but he's a right wing radio host. Total,
He's a
from
radio
what
host?
I've read, total sexist. And yeah, went, was famous, made famous for reading this study saying how women just, weren't as smart as men and didn't pay as much attention to what was going on in the world. And so
You don't want
something like
somebody like
that, something
that.
along those lines. So yeah, and he was just called out about it on Fox News, which is really funny because it was a female reporter who was asking, or an anchor who asked him about it. And she's asking him, about how he doesn't respect women, or what do you say about people who say you've disrespected women? And he's interrupting her and talking over her and disrespecting her while trying to say and prove how much he respects women. So it's like,
Contradicting himself.
wow, you just made your point there. You just,
God.
yeah.
Hopefully you don't get him. That is terrible. I bet he'll like.
Yeah.
You have mask mandates there?
No, not anymore. I mean,
Hmm.
businesses are allowed to do whatever they want and, implement whatever mask rules they want. But yeah, they lifted the statewide mandate.
Hmm.
So
Okay. Hmm. That's good.
yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's kind of headed, people are thinking that it's headed down that road again, or maybe another lockdown because of the Delta variant. But people are just being totally irresponsible about it.
They are.
So yeah, I get why the government does what they do here, because yeah, we do have about 30% of the population in California that's just these crazy, you're not going to take away my rights, kind of
That's just crazy.
freaks who just don't believe, like they just don't believe that it's a real thing, you know? And it's not all Republicans. I mean, I know a lot of Republicans in the state and they totally believe in COVID. They've worn their masks. A lot of them have gone and gotten vaccinated even. but there's just a certain segment of the population. It might not be 30%, but it's a loud, vocal minority in the state who thinks that people agree with them more than they do.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, I just find funny you can wear a mask and then like what is that's nothing. Like at least a mask, you know, like you don't have to get the vaccine. Mask is not hard to wear, guys.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion, but maybe people are
Yeah.
like, it's suffocating me, it's killing my babies. They're wearing masks in school and my child almost died.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And they're all going to the school board meetings and making a, big scene. And yeah, there's actually, I'm profiling a guy this week who is a California resident, was just arrested. I believe he's from Orange County. I believe he lives in Irvine. And he was just arrested for, I think he sprayed pepper spray or bear spray at the police officers at the Capitol over by the West Tunnel. But he was also caught on video, I think it was last December, so December of 2020. He went to a Costco in Tustin, California, jumped up on one of the tables where they have the clothing and had a megaphone and started screaming and yelling about the mask mandates and the lockdowns. And yeah. So most of the people were like screaming at him and telling him to shut up and get down and you're an idiot. But there were a couple people who went up and like fist bumped him. And
it's like you find out like these Capitol rioters are actually crazy. Like it passed the point of like just the Capitol, and then you see their like actual life and you're like,
yeah,
it makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Like who's that guy who had like, he bought like 15 firearms when he was on, like he knows he has federal charges and you can't own firearms. So it's like,
oh no, it's like 70 something. Yeah. And he's a former cop who was, let out, out on probation or out on bond. Yeah. Not supposed to have any weapons. And he goes and orders like 70 something guns online.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
When not only former police are being charged, I mean, that you could dispute that, but current police officers like are being charged for being at the Capitol. Yeah.
Yeah. He and his partner, the one you were just talking about, he and the guy who went with him to the Capitol, they were both cops. They both got arrested. They were probably going to get a slap on the wrist. They were probably going to be one of those people who, cops to parading. And now he's doing this and he's online making additional threats saying, this isn't the end. We're going to do, something to that effect. Like they're still plotting. So
they deserve that.
And they were offered a plea agreement. He and his friend, the two cops, were offered a plea agreement. Could have probably, like I said, gotten off with just parading. And they said, no, they won't take it. So
they said, no, that's all they have. Is that what? Is that the only charge they have?
I believe, the report didn't say what the plea agreement was, but they said they're not going to take a plea agreement. So, but based on their charges, because they were one of those people who didn't do anything violent, they didn't break anything. So they were just charged with those standard 4 charges, misdemeanors of like disorderly conduct, parading or demonstrating. So yeah, based on all of the other cases with those same charges, they were probably just going to have to plead to that one charge, get a couple of years probation, if that, because they're police officers. But yeah, nope.
That's the thing. Like picketing and protesting in the Capitol. Like if I was there to do that and I got charged and I was offered a plea deal for that, I'm gonna take that plea deal because like, duh, like I know I'm there, like what I'm saying, like that's a great deal.
And it's a misdemeanor. It's not like a felony on your record or anything. So legal
battle drawn out, not worth it. Agree with you on that wholeheartedly.
I don't get it, some of these people, but there were some crazy people. I don't know if you saw the follow-up I just did on that. What was his name? Oh God, now I'm forgetting. It's the guy who knocked down the female police officer, caused a concussion.
That's the one I was talking about earlier by the steps.
Yes, Samsel. Something Samsel. I forget his first name, but has all of those charges from the past of beating up women.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, yeah, that guy, yeah, he absolutely, he needs to be locked up, should have been locked up a long time ago and not let out.
but it makes sense, like what I'm saying, like when you see like past the point of the Capitol and you look at their lives, you're like, you beat up women.
Yeah.
You gave that cop like a concussion.
But I mean, you think about it, you kind of have to be of that mind frame or that mindset to support Trump. You kind of have to either, I've kind of noticed two different types of men. It's either the so-called alpha male masculine toxicity, or toxic masculinity, whatever they call it. That kind of like, I'm the guy, I'm the dude, I don't have any respect for women, like the Proud Bigots,
Yeah.
I mean, their whole tagline is, what is it, that they're proud male chauvinists or something?
Yeah. Western chauvinist.
Yeah. So you have to either be of that mindset to respect and like someone like Trump, or I've noticed it's like the total beta male, or maybe not even beta, who has always wanted to be that guy. Maybe they were picked on in school constantly, like bullied by that guy, like Trump. And so they want to align themselves with that kind of person. But it seems like that's the two types.
That's spot on. That's spot on. I couldn't have phrased it better. Yeah. That's funny you say that.
Yeah.
It's exactly that.
Yeah. You can't be an upstanding male, like a guy who respects women, who would never sexually assault a woman, who thinks that that's abhorrent, who, you couldn't possibly know everything that we know about Trump and still respect him and support him if you're a decent guy. It just doesn't fit. And if you do, you're just someone who's so busy with your life, you have no idea who he really is.
Yeah.
And I do have family members like that. They're just, they're so busy running their business, or they're just, they're living their life and they only know what they see on Fox News, which obviously doesn't tell them the truth.
Nope.
And so, yeah. But I have to give them the benefit of the doubt to think, like, if they did know everything, if they did know that he's been accused of, what is it, almost 30 sexual assaults, including the rape of a child, that there's no way in hell that they would support someone like that.
For sure. I mean, brainwashing does a toll on people, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if they did know, sometimes like they're just like, they're so desensitized to the narrative or information. It's actually quite crazy. I mean, I faced that with my parents. Like, they know about things that they should shun away from Trump, but they're so desensitized to the information that they're being fed and brainwashed. It's just like, it's quite scary. I'm like, how do you get to that point? But I mean,
it's also the vilification of the other side, because then it justifies who they support. And it works both ways. I mean, I see people thought Bill Clinton was so horrific, and he has his accusations of sexual assault too, and what went on with Monica Lewinsky, which he's now admitted to. But, so the right goes, well, the left put up with that. The left was okay with that, which I thought Bill Clinton should have been impeached. I thought he should have been removed from office. I think if you're going to do that kind of stuff, and cheat on your wife and have sex with a subordinate like that, if that's your character, you don't belong in the presidency. You should not be elevated to the highest office in the land. I wouldn't even want you to be my dentist. That's just who I am. But people on the right use that as the excuse for, oh, well, you guys had your sexual assaulter and you guys still put him on a pedestal and you still have him at events. And they're right. The DNC had him there. Yeah. It's like, what the hell are you guys thinking? But now it's the same. Now it's like the left is going, well, look who you supported, look who you elevated to the highest land or the highest position in the country. So even if Tara Reade is telling the truth about what Biden did to her years ago, you've got Trump.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just tit for tat. And it's like, God, can we just have principles? Can we just say no one's right? no one's innocent in this, and we shouldn't support any of them?